Hi, my name is Jessica Formicola. I am the creator of SavoryExperiments.com and BestDessertRecipes.com. I am so excited to be here with you today to debut my new book, my first book, Beef It Up. It is a book full of 50 mouth-watering beef recipes, and these go far beyond steak and potatoes. We do have a steak, we do have a burger, but we take 50 other amazing beef recipes that you can make in your kitchen. No special equipment required and no grill required. We took your favorite comfort food and gave them a little bit of a makeover. Added some flavor, added a little punch, and of course, lots of colorful vegetables. Everything from spicy hand pies to 6 amazing salads, one of which we'll be making today, shepherd's pie mac and cheese, and even beefy enchiladas. There is something for everybody in this book, Beef It Up. Today we're going to be making my personal favorite, which is beef pad thai. When I tell you this pad thai sauce is amazing, I'm not even kidding. And we're also going to be making a lemony Brussels sprout salad because nobody ever said salad has to be served on iceberg or romaine lettuce. So let's get started. We are going to start with making beef pad thai, which might be one of my most favorite dishes in the entire book. We are starting with top sirloin cut into little strips. Ooh, little knock there, huh? I'm going to season it with coarse kosher salt, just a little bit on there to give it a nice little bit of crust and bring out the natural flavors in the beef. One of the great things about this book and a lot of the recipes is that there are multiple cuts of beef for each recipe. We even have an awesome chart in the front that is cuts demystified, meaning that we take all of those beef cuts that can seem really confusing when you're at the beef counter. We break them down and tell you how to best cook them, and also what you can substitute them for if you can't find the cut you're looking for. It also can be a little bit confusing because in different parts of the country, they have different names. So we've included all of those names, making it easy for you to find the beef you need. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil into this pan. If you're using a nice seasoned cast iron pan, you won't need any oil at all. Basically what we're looking to do is get a nice sear on our beef, and I don't want it to stick. Go ahead and pour it on in. And we'll start to hear a sizzle here any minute. Top sirloin is such a versatile cut of meat. You can marinate it, you can season it, throw it on the grill. It's fairly thin. Can be served rare if you're into that kind of thing. I am a rare beef kind of gal. And it doesn't take much TLC to be really good. Thinly sliced, you can put it into tacos, you can put it on top of salad, you can put it in almost any dish that requires beef. Today it's going into our pad thai. We probably eat beef at our house 2 or 3 times a week. And other than that, I really enjoy seafood. Of course, a lot of vegetables. I eat a lot of salads. This recipe is great for mixed diet relationships, we'll call them. You can easily make some beef on the side and then also make a vegetarian pad thai or a shrimp pad thai, or throw some shrimp in with your beef pad thai and use the same sauce and other ingredients to have a lovely meal that everybody enjoys. The pad thai sauce can also be made ahead of time, so you don't have to worry about making that when you're actually cooking. Although it comes together in a snap, it's really not that hard to make. But the whole recipe comes together in under 20 minutes from start to finish. It'll take you longer to chop the bell pepper and grate the carrots than it will to do anything else. Here I am looking for my beef to be nicely browned on all sides because it won't really get much cook time after I take it out of the skillet. Like I said before, I like my beef pretty rare, so I'm okay with not cooking it all the way through and having a little bit of pink on the inside. But if you like it more well done, be my guest. Make sure it gets fully cooked. Sirloin is a fairly thin piece of meat. It doesn't have a lot of fat in it. So it can taste a lot better when it is a little bit less well done. It's also a cut of beef that benefits from being cut against the grain. And you'll hear me talk about that a lot in the book. When I cut up this steak, I looked at where the grain marks were and I twisted it and cut against the grain marks. This physically shortens the fibers in the piece of beef, making it easier to chew. And this trick goes with any piece of meat, any piece of protein. It can be steak, it can be chicken, it can be fish. Cutting any kind of protein like that against the grain makes it easier to chew and appear more tender in your mouth and on your palate. So it's a good trick for anybody looking to make better food. Our beef is almost done. Getting there, getting there, getting there. I'm gonna use the same skillet for everything. The only other thing that I used is I went ahead and cooked the rice noodles ahead of time because figured it probably wasn't very exciting for you guys to sit here and literally watch water boil. I don't know if you can hear that. The wind in Baltimore here is crazy today. Where is everybody else from? So we're gonna take the beef out. We're just gonna set it aside. It's a really quick transition, so you don't really need to like keep it warm. Literally just set it aside. And use the same skillet for the vegetables. My beef over here. I am gonna put just a little bit more oil in here and turn down my heat a tad. Working with these burners can be a little tricky. I love vegetables. I love color in all of my dishes. And for this dish, we've chosen red bell pepper. Of course, if you want to use, oh, got a little sparky there. Of course, if you want to use another color of bell pepper or a mixed variety and make it a rainbow, be my guest. We have sugar snap peas. The recipe only calls for about a cup, but I really like them. So measure it with your heart. If you like veggies like I do, you can always give them a few more. And shredded carrot. Look at that medley of color. Isn't it beautiful? Okay. The trick here is that I want them to soften a tad, but I still want them to have this vibrant color and a little bit of a snap when I eat them. So we're just gonna let them stir fry a tad. After I get them all nicely coated in oil, for that sizzle, I'm gonna get started on the pad thai sauce. So for the pad thai sauce, you can whisk it together if you've got a really good strong arm, that's fine. I like to give it a few blitzes in my food processor. This mini food processor is probably one of my most used contraptions in the entire kitchen. I love it, I use it for everything, and it's dishwasher safe. And as a mom of 2 small children, anything that saves me time in the kitchen is a good thing. So we're starting with brown sugar. Brown sugar is going to break up the acidity and the umami flavors in the other ingredients that are in my pad thai sauce. Believe me, you need it. That little bit of molasses is going to make everything in the sauce taste better. Chicken broth. Just to thin it out a tad, we do use low sodium chicken broth. You can always add more salt, but it's really hard to take it away if there's too much in there, and this lets me control that. Rice wine vinegar, a must in almost any Asian-based sauce, right? Fresh lime juice. Fresh juice, of course, always better than bottled. Citruses start to lose their potency the moment that they're juiced. So fresh juice, way to go. Soy sauce, just a little bit. If you are going to make this a gluten-free dish, which is totally an option considering we're using rice noodles, go ahead and find a gluten-free soy sauce, okay? And this is a little bit of fish sauce. I know what people are thinking, fish sauce, ew, fish sauce. If you like pad thai, chances are you already like fish sauce and you don't even know it. It is a deep, rich umami flavor, and a little bit goes a long way. And of course, the star that gives it its signature flavor, creamy peanut butter. Get that bad boy in there. If you love the peanuts, double the peanut butter. No one will fault you. Okay. I'm gonna move around my my veggies a little bit here. One flipped out. Sorry, P. Okay. They're getting a little bit of char on them, which is just perfect. That adds more flavor, brings out all of the natural elements in the veggies. Okay. Turn this on, give it a quick blitz or 2 or 3 or 4. Woo. Okay. Clearly I use this a lot because it's starting to warp a little, so I'm gonna cover it with my towel. Okay, all ready to go. The veggies are almost ready. Get started. This is also an awesome recipe for cleaning out your vegetable crisper or your veggie bin, especially during all those summer months when your garden is like going wild, bonkers. You can take every little tidbit of whatever you have, onion, garlic, zucchini, anything, and throw it in the pad thai. It is such a versatile dish. I'm gonna add a little bit more oil here to the side, and as you can see, I've taken my vegetables and I've moved them all to the side. This is my little trick for pad thai. My egg, and I'm gonna splatter my egg all over myself now. Okay. I'm gonna put the egg to the side and then go ahead and fry it right in the pot. I don't need a whole nother separate pan just to make the egg. I just made it a nice little egg nest on the side there. Went ahead and scrambled it on in. It's all going to the same place anyhow, right? We've got our egg. We've got our snappy veggies. We're starting to move everything together now. Okay. Next, we're gonna add the beef back into the mixture. Has a few minutes to reheat. Let all of those flavors marry together. Okay, and now the sauce. If you did whisk this by hand, if there is some little bits of peanut butter in there that are still all together, don't worry, the heat from the pan will go ahead and melt that right on up. It's not an issue. So I'm letting that sauce incorporate into the vegetables and the beef. I know you guys can't smell this, but it smells amazing. I'm also a huge fan of peanut butter and basically any Asian dish. I never say no. Okay. The last piece of this is our rice noodles. I cooked these ahead of time al dente because I knew that they'd cook a little bit longer in the pan and I didn't want them to be overcooked. I probably need a little bit larger of a pan here, but we're gonna make things work. Okay, put your noodles right on in and toss them into the sauce. This is the Italian in me. Make sure your noodles toss in the sauce. They're a little bit stuck together because I cooked them ahead of time. I did toss them in a tad bit of sesame oil just to prevent them from sticking. Ooh, need a bigger pot. Always need a bigger pot. It's tough on these little stoves sometimes because you can't fit your giant cast iron skillets. There's not enough heat to really get them all going. But this is working just fine. We are still going to have a lovely pad thai. Trying to get the sauce and all of these veggies and the beef evenly incorporated with each other because I want that sauce to soak into the rice noodles. And now here is the best part. Dinner's served. How quick and easy was that? Okay, so we get our serving plate. And now everybody gets to customize their dinner. Serve it on up, all of those fresh vegetables, tender pieces of beef. We all know that in the real world, I would take a much bigger plate than this, but for the appearances here, we're going to just take a little bit. Okay, now the real question, what do you top your pad thai with? My favorites are fresh cilantro. Although I know not everybody loves cilantro, I am a huge cilantro fan. I love dry roasted peanuts. The crunch adds everything to the texture. fresh scallions, and of course, a nice spritz of lime. Other folks like crushed red pepper flakes or maybe some cock sauce. More salt, which is fine too. I never say no to a little bit of flaky sea salt on something. And bean sprouts are another huge fan favorite. So let's give this a try. See how I did today? Here we go. Oh, a little bite. This sauce is everything. I want to put it on everything. Perfect. There you go. Dinner in 15 minutes flat. Okay, let's move on to our next one, lemony Brussels sprout salad. Next, we're going to make my lemony Brussels sprout salad. One of my favorites because whenever anybody thinks about beef, they typically don't think about salad. And when they think about salad, they typically think of iceberg lettuce or romaine lettuce instead of a base of Brussels sprouts, which I guess are kind of a leafy green if you broke them all apart. But salad doesn't have to be just lettuce, even though it's lovely that way. So let me show you how we get started. We've got Brussels sprouts. This is a pound of Brussels sprouts halved. If they're like huge Brussels sprouts, you can go ahead and quarter them, and the little tiny baby ones can stay whole. A half of an onion, and diced red potatoes. This is the one that gets everybody kind of going, I love a nice red potato. It's a little bit waxy, it roasts up nice, but the skins are so mild that you don't have to peel them, and that cuts down on prep. And as you know, I'm always super busy because I have 2 little kids. So anything that cuts down on prep is good for me. This is also a hot salad. We are going to roast these off and get a nice deep brown on them. A little bit of olive oil. I totally eyeballed that. Okay. Toss them. I have the oven preheated at 400. I am not gonna season these. You can if you want to, but there is so much seasoning in the dressing we're about to make that you really don't need much on the actual roasted vegetables. And getting that nice brown on them, that nice sear, is gonna give you all the flavor that you need, okay? Nice big roasting pan. I like this one because it has all these little ridges, and that's lets air get around all of my vegetables. The sides aren't too high, so it doesn't create steam. And all of these are still going to go into a single layer. I want to make sure that we don't crowd the pan. I know that's usually something we do in a frying pan, but also on a baking sheet, especially when you're trying to roast things. High temperatures, make sure everybody's got their space in a single layer here. All that hot air can circulate around, and you're good to go. Pop this into the oven, 400 for 30 minutes, tossing about halfway through. While those roast, start working on your beef. For this recipe, we are going to be using a skirt steak. Again, another super versatile cut of meat, usually reserved for fajitas and tacos. I do love fajitas and tacos. This was commonly known as a butcher's cut of meat because the butcher saved it for himself. He knew how delicious it was, and I'd say the past 20 years, it's become more popular and mainstream. But a little piece goes a long way. So a pound and a half. I heat up my nice cast iron skillet here. If you aren't using a well-seasoned cast iron skillet, you might want to add a little bit of oil. Okay, and this is a pretty thin piece of skirt steak. Remember, we were talking about the grain before. You can definitely see the grain there. So when we chop this up to put into the salad, we're going to cut against the grain to make sure that we get those nice lines. Okay. The meat will not take long at all to sear, especially if you're like me and you like it nice and rare. Okay, we're gonna get started on our salad dressing now. Do you guys have a favorite appliance in the kitchen? Mine by far is this food processor, and judging by how splattery it got last time, I need a new one. Okay. This is a flavorful mix. You can make it ahead of time. In fact, if you have 30 to 60 minutes to let all the flavors really marry and develop, that's great. But if you don't, and you just need to get something quick on the table, go for it, serve it right away. I have fresh herbs here. So we have sage, thyme, and rosemary. Again, very forgiving recipe. So if you use a little bit more, you use a little bit less, or you have a little bit more herb in your garden or in your box, your vegetable box, go ahead, put it on in. You do what you want to do. If garlic, the recipe calls for 1 clove, but I measure garlic with my heart, so there's probably about 2 in here, and if you're the same as me, feel free to add a little bit more. Okay. The next bit, Dijon mustard. Dijon mustard is so great at stabilizing emulsified salad dressings and adds tons of flavor. Mustard is also awesome because there are so many different varieties. So if you really want to customize your salad dressing, just try a different flavor of mustard. It's that easy. Okay. Next, I'm going to do my lemon. This is a lemony salad dressing. Almost forgot this. We're going to use 2 different types of lemon. Well, from 1 lemon. The zest, okay? And I really love fresh lemon flavors, so I am going to get as much zest in there as I can. Zest is great opposed to juice. I like using them together. Zest really provides that clean lemony flavor that you think of when you think of like lemon flavored cakes and candies. Well, fresh lemon juice is more acidic, gives a little bit more of a bite, and it brightens things. I really think of it as a bright flavor. Instead of, some people I think would think lemons are sour, and I just don't agree with them. I think that they are so bright and fun. I like to add it to everything. In fact, I even have a lemon tree in my house, although I do not have a green thumb, and I'm pretty sure I'll kill it at some point in time. So I still end up buying a lot of lemons. Okay, so we have our lemon zest. And now we're going to use the juice of a half a lemon. If you're using pre-bottled juice or you've already squeezed some, it's about a tablespoon. But again, you get a little bit more, you get a little less. You're not going to make or break the dish. Okay. I am going to flip my steak real quick here. I got a nice brown, a nice sear. Go ahead and flip her over. Okay, so we have lemon, we've got Dijon, red wine vinegar. Again, a little bit more acidity. What's a vinaigrette without a little bit of vinegar? Am I right? Okay, coarse kosher salt. Love the coarse salt here, and especially kosher. Has a very clean salt flavor. Fresh ground pepper. Use as much as you like. If your family does not agree on saltiness or pepperiness, you can leave those out and then season the salads individually when you are done. And then last but not last, we have one more ingredient, but a little bit of sugar. And that sugar balances out all of those acidic flavors and the garlic in the salad dressing, okay? Put the top on. Make sure we wrap it this time. You know what happened last time. Give it a few blitzes. Okay, perfect. And lastly, because this is a salad dressing, we've got our olive oil. I add that last. And the only problem with my little mini food processor here is that I can't slowly drizzle it in like you would in a larger food processor or blender. Those would work great too. And if you don't have a food processor or blender, no worries. Get out the old arm, work those muscles, blend it all together. It's still going to be amazing. Maybe a little bit coarser in texture with the fresh herbs, but it's still perfectly fine. And it is an emulsification. So if it decides to separate on you, not the end of the world. Just stir it up, whisk it, shake it, do whatever you gotta do. And it's gonna be perfectly fine. Okay. Got a couple of stragglers here at the top, so I'm gonna take those out, make sure they get into my dressing. No garlic left behind. We've got our cutting board out. Turn off our steak. I would usually let this steak sit for, and it's probably still a little rare, but that's fine by me. I'd eat them black and blue every day of the week if I could. I'd let this steak sit for 5 to 10 minutes. Letting any kind of protein sit after you've cooked it lets all of those juices reabsorb into the fibers. Have you ever cut into something and all of the juices just ended up on your cutting board? It's because you didn't let it sit long enough. Everybody's worried about it not being hot enough. And if that's your concern, tent it with a little bit of aluminum foil. But I guarantee you, things like meat, and especially potatoes, they really hold heat well. You don't have to worry that much about them not being super piping hot if you let them rest. And the end result's gonna be a lot juicier and more amazing, okay? So here we're gonna cut into this, we talked about before, against the grain. Nice little thin strips. Again, if you do not have a skirt steak, you could use a sirloin here. You could use a New York strip. We have that handy dandy Cuts Demystified for you in the book. So if you can't find something or it's out of your price point, or go ahead and pick something else. One of the most frequently asked questions I get is, how do I shop for beef? And I personally always look for the certified Angus beef brand beef. I know that it's a good quality beef. I know there's just one single ingredient in it, beef, and I will always get excellent flavor out of it. Okay, so all of our cuts here today are certified Angus beef brand. Okay, so I'm gonna move that aside. I did go ahead and roast off some vegetables. These aren't piping hot. I'd usually serve them a little bit hotter. To assemble our salad, we're gonna take these, oh, look at that, they're nice and crispy. Is there anything better than a nice crispy Brussels sprout? Oh, makes me happy. Makes me so happy. And crispy onions. So we've got a nice base. You could, even if you really needed more greens in there, get some arugula, spinach, some romaine, put it all underneath your crispy hot veggies. Totally up to you. Okay, couple of strips of steak right on top there. Okay. The dressing. I had a spoon, there it is. Okay, get a little bit of dressing out. I can smell the fresh herbs. A little goes a long way with this dressing. We had some pretty flavor-packed ingredients in there, so you don't need a ton. And a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Of course, if you're going no dairy, just leave that off. I usually don't add additional salt to the salad because the Parmesan cheese is a little salty, and other elements in the salad dressing are salty as well, so I don't feel like I need it. But if you wanted to add a little flaky Maldon sea salt, I wouldn't be mad at you. I really wouldn't. Okay, let's see how we did. This dressing, amazing on the actual salad, but you could certainly use it as a marinade too for beef, chicken, or seafood, or just on roasted veggies. You might find yourself making it several times a week and just storing it for your regular meal prep lunches, but there we go. See how easy that was? You have a wonderful steak salad in mere minutes. So there you go. 2 super easy, family-friendly, veggie-packed beef dishes that we made in 30 minutes or less. Both of these are available in my new book, Beef It Up, along with appetizers, soups, salads, entrees, and a few special occasion meals. You can grab your copy at any local bookstore, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or any place books are sold. If you don't see it, just ask for it and they will order you a copy. Big thanks to Melissa's Fresh Produce for having us on today, and I hope you have a fabulous evening.